All right, guys, Sam back with you here. This is Litecoin to the dollar. Now, I have it here on Kraken, where I'm trading it, and I've got some other people trading it that are members. And I just thought I'd show you a couple of things here. Now, of course, it's on an amazing tear today. Seems to be trading off with Bitcoin. But I wanted to show this to you on the 4-hour here, just to kind of remind you that, you know, it's easy to get focused on the smaller time frames, but whenever you see a move like this, you've got to step back and say, given the extreme action that we're seeing here, okay, where could we be in the larger degrees? What could be happening here? Well, excuse me, I've got the original pitchfork here on that I'm working off of these dominant pivots here. And so, you know, given this action, and we're trying to get a handle on, could we potentially be heading towards a top for the third that we could start projecting from for a fourth, because that will be the next opportunity if you're not long from here. Well, let's just measure that out and see, you know, is it technical? Well, if I'm just keeping it simple, just going from my potential pivot low here to my 2, you can see that from the 1 down to the 2, we come between the 50 and the 618. We get, you know, just a few through the 50, but the 618 we hold it, and you see we've gone to an interesting overlap here. So we've got this unbelievable confluence right here of the negative 1618 from this pull all the way back here, swing low up to our potential 1, down to the 2, the 50 holds it, and we go 1, 2, 3, fourth extreme target for potentially, right? This would not be surprising at all, for potentially for this to be the third of this move. Now, I'm not calling that yet, given the price action that we're seeing here, but if you're wondering, well, why does it stop there? Well, that's exactly why. That's algos are hitting that. So you've got potential atop there. Now this little confluence here, where we've got the negative 618 and the negative 100 relative to this pull. I'm going to show you that in a little more detail. But why does this matter for us? Because it's all relative to where can we find our opportunity in the fourth if you're not in it. So we need to establish a good pivot here. On a 4-hour, we're going to be expecting an ABC, just as you saw with Bitcoin. Can we get that subdivision into an ABC to give us an opportunity for the fourth, looking for the fifth, of course, which, you know, we don't until we have a fourth, we won't start projecting the fifth, but substantially higher. How about we go with that? So on the largest degree, we don't know yet, we may have the third in here, but we'll have to see what kind of reaction we get. So let's go down. Let's take this to the smaller time frame where it was tradable, and this set up just the other day. And you know, this is the kind of thing that we post up in the room. So I know I've got some members that are in this, and this is a reasonable spot to be looking for some profit taking. So, you know, here with the tick of the negative 1618, that's not a bad place to maybe take a partial profit, or at the very least tighten up your stop. So we don't know that that's the top, but that's certainly very technical. So given where that is, you can see the setup here was not rocket science. It was very, very simple. So we had, you know, we had this reaction. So we had this very nice subdivision here into a 345, which at that time we had labeled as the 3. Turns out to be pretty good labeling. So then we get the big whoosh down. Then we get this pattern here that we have seen. It's just, I don't know how many dozens of times I've shown this to you now in crypto, where we're getting these shallow C waves. So we're getting sort of a triangle pattern, but it's coming from a truncated C wave. So we're not getting the depth of the full. We're not getting the C wave exceeding the A wave down to either a 618 or a 100%, as is more commonly seen. But in a raging bull market, it's shallow Cs. It's the impatience of the market. They're looking to buy. So we get a 3 wave and off it goes. So from that, right, so we had reasonable expectation given the fact that we did a 1-2, and then we could clearly see impulsive movement here to give us a third. So as I recall from when we were posting this up, here was the 1, here was the 2. Right, so here we end up here. Here was the little pocket here. Here's the high probability zone, as I've shown you many times, statistically where you would expect to see a third. is right there between the 1618 and the 175. So we wick, we get one little pump through it, and it looks like we complete the third right there. So given that, we may have an A, B, C, right? So an expanded flat into the B wave. So we get a little A, B, C into the B. So we were looking at that going, well, if we're going to get a fourth, let's pay attention to the retracement. So if I pull that off, again, this is the same things. I show you this over and over again just to remind you that, this might set up for you, 10 times, right? And your expectation should not be that I'm going to get 7 out of 10. The expectation is that if you can get 3 out of 10 and you have good money management, all those little stops that you take because the market fails or you're spread to Bitcoin and Bitcoin just continues to rip and it crushes all the alt spreads, and you get stopped out. You have to have the discipline to come back to it, and when it sets up and it's technical, you have to pull the trigger again. I don't care if you've been stopped out 7 times in a row. If you're doing it the way I'm trying to teach you, those are small losers. Small. As I like to say, they're jabs. If you're in the ring, you're going to get hit. A stop, that's getting hit. So is it a jab or is it an uppercut to the jaw? This, again, it's the time that you don't take it because you're scared, because you seem, I don't know, man, I've seen this, I've been stopped out, 5, 6, 7 times in a row. I'm getting a little gun shy on taking these 618s. That is the time. It's just the perversion of the market. That is the time that you'll get that. It's just the way it works. So back to how would you know? How would you measure that? Well, again, so here's the things that I've taught you many, many times. So potentially a 1-2. We wick off the 1 high. We've got our high probability zone here for a third. And we kind of stall here and go sideways. Then we get the retracement. Okay, well, if we're going to get a retracement, well, let's measure it. So let's take it from the 2 low to the 3 high. Now let me just open this up a little bit so you can see it. All right, so I'm going to take this off here just because we're clouding up the chart. Okay, so we come right. So here's our wave 1 high right here. You see this? Okay, we come just a few ticks from overlapping it, but we don't. And we just get a wick into the hot box. The place, if you're going to get, see, the reason this is so good is because look at your risk. Okay, so there's where we are. But the risk to get into that, you can see the alarm I had right here, right? That was to tell me if we were going to get stopped out, right? So the entry here was so tight. There's no reason to take more risk than that. That's if you're a member of mine or if you watch my videos, you're going to see me post that up almost every day. That's exactly what I look for and what I'm trying to teach you to look for, because I can take that 7 times in a row, knowing that one of these times I'm going to get that. This little stop out here, I mean, I've lost count of how many stops I had in the last 48 hours that were spread against alts against Bitcoin. A lot of them. A lot of failure swings, a lot of wave 2s that failed, and we have to start all over again from fresh lows. Welcome to trading. That's the reality of it. But you've got to again, it's a discipline that comes from seeing this. You're seeing this kind of reaction, as many times as I have, that I know that I'm going to continue to pull the trigger there because, one, if I get stopped out, not going to hurt me, not going to ruin my day, not going to blow up my account. I can take that many, many times in a row. But one of these times or 2 of these times or 3 out of 10, that's going to compensate me for all those little stops handsomely. Right? The old baseball analogy, if you get a hit 3 out of 10, you're going to the Hall of Fame. It's the same thing in trading. It's not going in and then, putting the thing way down here where you just get hit because you're spreading against Bitcoin and you're an alt bull and you love the project. But, you take way too much risk. Now you're underwater. And now what are you now? Now you're a holder. No, I was trading it. Now I'm holding it. And that's how you rationalize it. And that's, I get comments and hear about it all the time. If you're going to be a trader, you can't put yourself in a position where you can get knocked out. So just a textbook trade, not complicated really. really not that complicated. 1, 2. Oh, there's my 3. I'm in my high probability zone. Where's my 4? Well, I know I don't want to go. I don't want it to overlap my 1. Oh, I'm coming right into that little hot box that I know is a good place to be a buyer. I can buy it there with a stop just on the other side of the 65. So if I invalidate it, I'm going to be out, and I'm going to reevaluate as to what's happening. 13 to 1 as it sits right there off of that. And then of course, now trying to get some structure on it. I guess for a pitchfork, I'd pull from there. I'd go to that low. And look what we get here. There's the 100% upper parallel to the tick. All right, guys. It really is not. Trading should, in theory, be simple, right? It's not that complicated. Yes, there's some things you got to learn. You got to do some studying. You got to understand how the market moves. You got to know when you see certain patterns. Are they algo patterns? What's likely happening here? This is just classic algo, but you've got Elliott wave mixed into it, and then you've got the market geometry. So we go right to the 100, right to the upper parallel. Right. So, so what is that now? Well, where's the next opportunity? Well, if that's complete, if we've got a complete fifth and we don't know that we do yet, because we don't have enough subdivision here. I'm on a 1 hour. This is just a straight moonshot. I don't have subdivision there. I got to wait and see what, is that could just be the beginning of it for all we know. We don't know. So we got to wait and see. How does it move now? Do I get a 3 wave? Am I going to end up relabeling this as 1, 2? 3, 4, up for another 5? Well, we don't know. We don't know yet. But the point of all of this is when you see that with that kind of risk, I don't care how many times in a row you've taken it and been stopped out. It's the time you don't take it that's what happens, right? Believe me. God, I sound like Trump when I say that. Believe me, the time that you don't take it that's what happens. It's just the perversion of how the market is, because it punishes you. It punishes mistakes, and not taking that trade is the mistake, right? Because you were either scared or you got stopped out, or you're not. I don't know, man. Bitcoin's killing everything. Maybe I just want to be in Bitcoin. That's the time that you don't take it that you get that rip. All right, so let's quickly just finish. How am I on time? That's 12. Okay, we're good. So let's go look at it against Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, totally different, right? So this was one of those classic huge failures. Now, I've got some big pitchforks on here. The reason I have that, I want to make the point of showing you that you might be trading over here on the 1 hourly. You're gonna forget all about these dominant pivots. This is why I tell you, when you're seeing extreme movement like this, you have to pull out and look at, okay, what can I get any help from looking at my very largest pivots? Can I get any help? Well, I mean, these are some pretty gigantic pivots right here to work from. So when I see this, and this was a huge failure because we had the potential for this to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what we thought. But then we get the gigantic rip in Bitcoin. But look how the market responds here to this geometry. So I'm just taking these giant pivots up here. Here's my highest high, lowest low, then the retrace here. And now, of course, I've got the modified shift on this. So if you drew that up, you got to know to do this, right? So if I drew that up and I had the original on it, well, that's not helping me much because we're too far away from it. So again, so let's go over here. Maybe you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so that's interesting. Look, note here, 80% probability of making the median line, and of course we get it right there. So there's your corner pocket going to the short side, but then it just keeps going. So let me get that box up again. So don't ignore that. That was a hell of a sell there. But then we're going too far. Now we're getting too far to the side of it. So I'm going to look at the shift, too extreme. So I'm going to go to the modified shift. Bang! Look at that. So what do I see here? Look. So remember, trading principle number 1, that the market has a strong number 2, if the trading principle number 2 is the market often will pivot exactly on the median line. So even this is off of those old gigantic pivots, and you might be down here battling it out on a 15-minute. Step back and see if you can get any help from the market geometry on a larger degree, on a larger scale. So from this low, By the way, that's the 100% projecting from the length of this move. From this move, there's the 100%. We rally back up and we nail the median line right to the tick on what ends up being an ABC. So when you're wondering, oh man, why does it stall there? I thought we had a 1-2, and Sam said we might have a 1-2 and we're going off to the races there. Well, again, it's all just possibilities and probabilities. Well, okay, so why does it stop there? That's why. That's why. We hit the median line, and then it gets rejected. Well, take note now. So, right, so we know that median line is in play, but just because I've hit that one, I want to start, it's solving the puzzle. So this is too short, right? So I don't get enough. So let me show you, right? So if I take that off, so this is a significant pivot here. I know that because if I pull from here to here, right, look what happened here. So we get a combination. So we get here, this is to and through it here. This is why we thought we had potentially a 1-2, and the expectation was we had the setup potential for a 1-2 going up to a 3-4-5, right? But it fails. It fails. And so knowing that we had that failure and coming back up to it, look what we do here. Look at how perfect that is technically. But if you don't know to be digging, looking for, trying to solve the puzzle, what are the pivots that are significant here? Well, we knew that was potentially a pivot because that was our deepest retracement before we started this move. And then we come here, we're to and through it, we wick through it. Right, we thought this was potentially the opportunity to be a buyer to get long, but then we do this. Then we come right up to the median line, right into the box, right. So I'm not saying that I shorted it there. I didn't. But if you're going back saying, well, where are the critical pivots? What's happening now? Well, that certainly these become important pivots for any future projection. Well, now take note at where we go. Do you see that? So here's the swing high to swing low. Here's the pivot here at the median line. Here's the algo target, right? And that's the pivot. You see that, right? So it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get it right with the first time that you draw it up. Odds are you won't. And with that, that's the move from yesterday from Bitcoin. Well, I promise you, there's an algorithm that sold it there and took their profit there at the -23. That is not random. Trust me on that. That is not random. That's why it's pivoting there. The algos that sold it there are just taking profit. So now you look at that and go, okay, well, is there anything else there? Is there anything else potentially to help me validate that pivot? Well, I'm just going to, if I've got 3 pivots, I'm going to just start drawing. I'm going to start drawing median lines. I'm going to go to that one and check that. Well, it's kind of interesting, but I want to see if I can get any closer. So given that, I'm going to go from here. I'm going to look at the alternates. All right, so let's go to original. Interesting. Let's go to Schiff. Interesting. Modified Schiff. Original looks closer to me, but so potentially what we have here, so from median line trading principle number 4, a failure to make the median line sets up a move equal to or greater than this prior swing. So we have the potential for this move here off of the algo target to go in excess of this move here. Because here's the last, well, it would be this one here actually. So it'd be this swing down here. So we have the potential for this to go back up and at the very least challenge that 61865 box. If this is a true pivot low. But again, I would also look at this. This is solving the puzzle. I got to consider this. I got to consider that. That's kind of interesting. Well, let me take this one off. So here, I would also look at that. Put that. Shift. No. I might keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that and see. Well, look, we're coming right up to the median line here. So it's I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's this process of looking to validate pivots. What kind of pivots can I find? What's now if I work from these 3 pivots, I've got potentially confluence down here. Let me take that back to original. There you go. See that? It's kind of a trial and error. Is it this pivot to this pivot? So now I get a confluence. Now I get what I was looking for. I get a bang of the median line at the algo target of the negative 23, telling me I've got good odds that I've got a hard pivot there. But you see, it was just kind of a trial and error to try and find where are the dominant pivots. We know this was good and this was important because of this, right? So there's the bang of the median line. And so if I take those same three again, here's the bang of the median line right at the algo target at negative 23, and look at the reaction. So given that we have potentially a hard pivot to work from, now what are we looking for? Well, now if we're going to get a new trend starting from that, well, we're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to take us out of that. You see that? Right? It's putting the puzzle pieces together, because nothing is random in the market. Rarely does something happen that's not technical as a dominant pivot. So now we've come right to the outside edge here. And by the way, right into the, look at that, right into the Vegas wave, right into the sweet spot between the 144 and the 169. So is that potentially our one? Well, how would we know? Well, we've got to see a two-wave. We've got to see a little ABC come down and hold. So what would we do? We would just pull from that low to potentially, if that's our high, look what we get here. So now we're looking, we know a 2 can be between the 50 and the 618. It can go as deep as the 786. We know that. That's the next setup. So if you're looking for entry to Litecoin to Bitcoin, there's your next opportunity. Knowing that, listen, it could keep going down here. You don't know. It's just an odds play. That's what you're looking for right there. If you want to get long Litecoin to Bitcoin, that's, well, in my opinion, for what that's worth. So that's where I would be buying next, because I've seen this reaction. Seen it. Now I'm looking for this, because now if I can catch that, right? So if I can get in here, if I can get in here, somewhere in here, I'm looking for a 3 up here. I know I got good odds of going at least past that pivot. So let me get that down there. If I bring this up, there's my 786. If I wanted to go that deep, there's 4 to 1. If I want to be a little tighter on the 6.5, then I can get 6.5 to 1. And that's we haven't even measured out the potential third target relative to the 1-2, because we don't have the good 2 yet. We don't know where it's going to be, but we know we're going to target the 1618, which is going to be somewhere up around here. So if we can get a hard pivot out of this, then we know we've got a 1-2. And then what are we going to do? If I get a 1-2 that works there, since the geometry has been so good, I'm certainly going to do this. I'm certainly going to go like that. And maybe that's too steep, or maybe I go straight to it here. Maybe I have to put a modification on it. Maybe I have to take that over to the shift, or the modified shift, to stay within the geometry of the market. Maybe that's what I end up. Right? Look, that's kind of interesting. Right? So if we get a pivot here, there's the corner pocket potentially setting up, 80% probability of making the median line. Maybe I get the outside edge. Wouldn't that be just perfect? So what's the point here? Look at the risk reward. 6.5 to 1. You want to be even tighter? You want to be just on this side of 65? You want to wait and see if you can catch it at the 618 and stop under the 70. See, that's what you got to make that evaluation yourself. Do I get a little ABC? I'm on the 4 hour now. If I go down to the 1 hour, can I get a 3-wave structure to tell me that I potentially got a 2 setting up for me? That's the process that you're going through. It's constantly looking to validate the pivots from which you're going to project and try and look for the market geometry. Once I get pivots that are technical, then I'm going to start drawing pitchforks. Then I'm going to start doing projections, right, from a technical pivot. And it took us a while to find it, but there it is. All right, guys, that's 23 minutes. I will wrap it there. I think I had some members wanted to see a few other things as well. So maybe I can get Ethereum done as well. Okay, that's it for now.